So 5 years ago, I joined campus. And I remember on the registration day, I went to the admin's office, 2 huge suitcases, and asked which room had I been given. None. If you've gone to college, if you've gone to university, what I'm saying is very familiar to you. Across East Africa, more than 60% of students stay off campus. And the reason is, even though the government is investing heavily in higher education, that money is not being channeled towards increasing the infrastructure that these institutions hold. So then the student has to look for accommodation outside. What are the challenges they face when they do that? So one of the challenges is that it's very expensive for you to look for accommodation outside. On average, you spend somewhere between 3,000 Kenya shillings to 10,000 Kenya shillings just for you to find space. Space that is affordable, space that is comfortable, space that is secure, and most importantly, space that is close to the school. Another thing is that it's very easy for you to get defrauded. You go to Kenya in the campuses and you ask the students, one of the most common stories you'd hear among them is that they were shown a toilet for 3,000 bob. And after that, they didn't even get that house. Again, there is no easy way for you to actually do it at the moment, and there is no way for you to compare different price points and different options before you make a decision. So fast forward to today, and a little over a year ago, we decided to do something about it. So what is Roometo? Roometo is a web platform where a student can find a hostel, accommodation, or a roommate. The value proposition from our end is that we save you time and money. Roometo is also very secure and is hassle-free. You can search, find, and book for a place without ever having to go there or without even being in that city. So how big do we think the market is? Economic survey in 2016 done in Kenya found that 800,000 students were currently enrolled in universities alone. But the total bed spaces in those universities still stood at 280,000. That leaves about 520,000 students who have to find alternative accommodation. And that's only in universities alone. You look at colleges, none of the colleges in Kenya actually have accommodation or hostels that they can put in students. And this is just data from Kenya. The same problem is faced in South Africa, the same problem is faced in Tanzania, and I'd like to believe the same problem is faced in Uganda. So we think the market is pretty big. The product is simple. You go, you search either by location, by the type of accommodation you want to find, or by the total amount of price that you're willing to pay for it. Once you do that, you can either book, save it to your wish list for you to book later. So how do we make money out of this? So number one, we charge a 10% commission on the first month's rent. This is actually cheaper than what the current agents are charging because on average, we do about 1,000 per head. And this money, of course, is paid by the hostels and not the students. We also have targeted marketing where we have hostel owners who are saying, hey, look, my hostel is new and I'd like to market this. Could you help me do that? And we have a monthly fee that we charge on the CRM tool that we are currently developing. So the numbers you see there are projections we've given that we think would hit by beginning of 2020. And in total, we think we'd do about 10 million Kenyan shillings in revenue. And we do that from 3 million from the CRM tool that we're developing. That is conservative looking at just 50 hostels on board. And of course, another 6 million if we service 500 students per month. So market adoption strategies is that we partner with universities and colleges. We do online marketing, we do activation and events, and of course, word of mouth. Competition so far is that we divided it into two. We have offline and online. So online we have PGME and Buy Rent Kenya. Our competitive advantage is that we are student-centric. Unlike our competitors that have different products across their platforms, we focus on just one, and that is serving the students. Our platform is also easier to use, and we have a singular approach as opposed to diversifying it. Milestone so far is that we are one of the leading students' online marketplaces without ever having done any marketing whatsoever. We've also done partnership with 2 of the largest universities and have 200 plus registered users, recording a monthly traffic of about 1.1K on every month. So the next step for us is to be the biggest online marketplace for student accommodation in Kenya over the next 2 years. Our ask, I'll just keep over this for a minute, our ask for today is that we need 200K for 10% equity stake to enable us to achieve our vision, which is currently to be the biggest online marketplace for student accommodation. A great percentage of that money is going to go towards covering direct costs. So we need to build an aggressive sales and marketing team, something that we've not done at the moment, and of course to cover our CapEx and OpEx operations. I have very few to talk about the team, but then maybe I'll just go through them. So I'm the CEO. I'm an electrical engineer and a computer programmer. Meter, Mike are also electrical and computer engineers. This is our 3rd venture so far. One of them failed. Another one was, we broke even, but we didn't really hit high numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Roometo. And now over to the judges.
Henry, nice model. I like your precision. I like that you're focused exclusively on students. I don't think the tech would be very difficult for you to do. I think one risk is that you'll have some fast followers, right? Some people who see what you're doing and say, oh, I can do that in another region or something like that. So how do you anticipate being better than people who would come after you trying to do the same thing? And then also I highly encourage you, similar to the last speaker, to think of a convertible note rather than issuing equity, which can take a long time in Kenya.
So thank you for that question. One thing I'd like to point out is that the online competition that we've just mentioned launched after we launched, right? And they were aware of the product. And so part of the reason we are raising is that we want to grow and scale really quickly and cover as much of the market as possible before we see copycats come into the market, right? And the fact that we actually, instead of going to the hostel owners, go to the universities. So what happens is, at first, the biggest problem for us was how do you convince these hostel owners to come on board to the platform? But now we're at a point where the universities are saying, we have our own hostels to manage. Please, if you're an external hostel, deal with those guys. So number one, corner as many universities as we possibly can, have partnerships with them, and just grow crazy fast before any competition comes on board.
Yeah, I think you have a great model. I like the model and the focus as well. So keep it up.
Thank you.
So what's your current revenue? I didn't hear about that.
So far, we've gotten directly through the platform 283 students to hostels. On average, we do about 1,000 shillings per head. The problem with that is we trusted handshakes, right? And so we should have made 283,000 Kenya shillings, but most of those hostel owners stand on us. So what we've done at this point is we've actually signed contracts with them, right? Out of that, about 100 of the hostel owners have lived up to their end. So we have more than half who still owe us and probably won't pay. So yeah, in terms of revenue, that's what we've done. Our biggest challenge is the fact that we get, and we had the assumption that the hostel business had to be seasonal, right? Where in January you have an intake, you have students coming in, and then you have a sort of a lag, and then after 3 months again you have that up. But we have seen a consistent monthly traffic on average 1,100 students. And our conversions need to be in the 30s or 40s for us to start hitting those high revenue numbers, right? So part of the money has to go in growing a very aggressive and focused and driven sales team.
How many bookings do you need at least to break even given your model that you are operating?
Because we have 3 different revenue models, we need 50 hostels. We are currently at 32, and only 500 students a month for us to be able to break even in 2 years.
Okay.
And one last question is, how do you verify the students, and how do you check and verify the hostel owners as well? And is it possible for you to sign like exclusivity deals with some of the hostels and households as well to kind of lock out that competition and capture the market?
So we have what we call verification on Roometo. And what verification is, we've partnered with these universities. And these universities themselves have hostels based on a few metrics that they have sort of recommended to students for that particular university, right? So for those universities, we have a little green tick that says they're verified. It doesn't mean the other hostels are bad. It just means if you're a student in University of Nairobi, for instance, you're better suited looking for a hostel in Chiromo that has been vetted by the school, certified that this is a hostel that we can vouch our students to go for, as opposed to going to a hostel that is not verified. Now, hostel can also seek verification with us at this point. And that's because the universities don't want to go there themselves. So we tell you, you pay for our transport, you pay for us taking the photos, because we take the photos ourselves. We come, we verify that everything on your brochure is actually as it is, and that you have very high standards and quality, right? And we give you the badge.
All right. Did you have one more thing?
How did you arrive at 2 million valuation, given the numbers that you're sharing?
So what happened is we did projections for the next 2 years. So that valuation is based on 3 things. Number one, the amount of money we actually need as runway over the next 1.5 years. The market size that we evaluated, looking at East Africa alone, right? And the revenue we think we'd be able to do over the next 3 years.
So it's based on the future cash flow projections?
Yes, majority of it is based on future.
All right, thank you so much, Roometo, for your time, and the judges for their comments.